You don't know what's going to happen to anyone, and Helen Douglas provide that protection, that kind of, I guess anyone could need the service.
It always happens to someone else, doesn't it? I never imagined that I would ever need not a child's hospice.
Well, you might expect a hospice for yourself when you're an old person.
Yeah, but things didn't work out that way. Well, I'd given birth to him perfectly fine, and he was a healthy little baby, really. We brought him home from the hospital that day. Of course, having a baby is a big transition, but it wasn't as if he was our first baby. And, we were obviously keen to get him home for us to start living together as a family of now what was 5. I had received a call from our GP to say that some results had come back from a test I had done on the previous Monday, so 2 days before Thomas had been born, to say that I'd got this infection, GBS. At the time I'd never heard of GBS, and I said, well, that's fine because he has already been born, he's healthy, we're back home, we've got no concerns. She told us not to worry over Julie, but if he got a temperature or he stopped feeding or anything, to take him straight to hospital. And then as the morning progressed and we carried on trying to feed him and him not wanting it, level of concern slowly increased, and the birthing centre called just to check that everything was going okay with the feeding, and they suggested us bringing him in just so they could do a quick skin test to see if he was jaundice. Obviously saw from my medical records at that stage that I'd had GBS, and we got an ambulance over to Stoke Mandeville and rushed straight down into the neonatal unit there, and by that stage he was having seizures and was really, really poorly. He stayed there for the following few days where they realised that yes, he did have meningitis, and an initial scan showed that he had some brain damage, and we were told that he would have cerebral palsy. They then did further tests and things. The brain damage had actually gone further and extended across his whole brain, and there was no way he was going to survive. They told us that they would look at taking him off the ventilator, and that we'd be able to cuddle him and say our goodbyes, which we did. But he did survive. He carried on. And the next day, the sun came up and he was still with us, and the doctor came in and said, what do you want to do now? And it was just, well, I don't know. What do we do now? What are our options? And that's when they started talking to us about going into a hospice, and in particular Helen House. We were just blown away with it. The support that we had, and the care that we were given, and the enjoyment that we all got of spending time there.
They allowed us to live in the moment rather than having to worry about, food and accommodation and all those things. Enabled us to spend time with Thomas, and Thomas to be the focus.
We were ready for the fact that he could go at any time. He could go within the next hour or so.
Or it could be months or years. They just honestly didn't know. I guess Helen Douglas House helped us kind of just work through that. So we were very numb when we arrived, and they kind of helped us to get through that and to start functioning as a proper family again.
Going there and walking through the doors to this homely environment where
you don't have to ask to see your son anymore, which is what you have to do in the hospital. You kind of have to buzz in, and you can't go and come as you please. Thomas was tied up with dozens of little wires. You couldn't pick him up and cuddle him, whereas in Helen Douglas House we were able to treat him as a baby. They looked after us. They made sure we ate well as well. I mean, in hospital it's very easy to stop eating, and I think going back into the structure was a big step for us as well, wasn't it?
And actually, it's what you need. Lovely home-cooked meals. Food is one way that you can show someone that you're looking after them, I guess, and Helen House definitely did that well. It meant that we could all sit round the same table together, with Thomas being with us whilst we sat and ate. It's those moments of normality where you can kind of almost escape the fact that he's not going to survive. So.
And they also came to his funeral, and we gave out daffodil bulbs for people to take home and plant, and they took a bulb and planted it in Helen Douglas House. The
day that I walked out of hospital with him in my arms, literally in the first flower bed that we came to, there were daffodils literally just coming into bloom, and I said to Jason at the time, the daffodils had just come out to sort of welcome him into the world. And then every car journey we went on, every time we went out to the park or walked down the road with him, there were just daffodils everywhere. So when it came to making arrangements for his funeral, we just decided that we wanted to give everyone a daffodil to remember him by. So,
not a cut daffodil, something that was alive.
Yeah, there's little bits of Thomas all over the UK where people have planted a bulb in his memory, really. Every time the daffodils come out now, it's his time of year, and that's just makes us think of him.
Having a child with disabilities or a child that's terminally ill is a very hard burden for parents to have, and without the support and help of Helen Douglas House, I don't know what would have happened to us.
It's an invaluable service. It's changed our lives.
It's not just children born with disabilities. Sometimes older children that something can happen to them instantly, and they go from being a laughing, running, happy, 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, to suddenly having life-changing injuries. And anything that we can do to help them or to kind of make their lives a little bit better, I think that's what Helen Douglas House does. I think it protects and it helps and it nurtures children and families.
They hold such precious memories, and they're the type of memories that will stick with you forever. I'll always be indebted to them.